two giveaways really were the difference there in that first half, because I thought we were doing some really good things. But then we got that takeaway, had a takeaway negated by an offside.
Dillon Gabriel was not better than Shedeur Sanders in minicamp when the rookies was there. He was not better at minicamp or training camp when the veterans was there. He did not perform better than him during the game he was in. And it's time out for people with the cap.
But I do view him as somebody who could position himself to be that QB2. And if he's not in that position, but he's playing well, we know that the reason that would be the case is because they don't want people clamoring for Shedeur Sanders prematurely.
Kevin Stefanski has finally reached his breaking point, and it's now obvious that he's lost confidence in Dillon Gabriel. After another underwhelming performance, Stefanski didn't hold back, admitting that Gabriel's play was simply not up to standard. He even went so far as to call out some of Gabriel's decisions as the worst of the entire game, particularly during that disastrous second quarter. These weren't minor mistakes. They were momentum-shattering errors that left fans frustrated and teammates visibly rattled. This moment feels like a real turning point, because when a head coach publicly calls out his own quarterback, it shows just how serious and troubling the situation has become.
Very good so far. And this one is picked off and going back the other way. The Eagles, Andrew Makuba. A pick six the other way.
After watching the game play out, it became crystal clear why Shedeur Sanders is the better option. Dillon Gabriel struggled from the opening snap to the final whistle. No touchdowns, no big completions, and wasted opportunities even with the full support of the first-team defense behind him. His mistakes didn't just stall drives. They flipped the momentum completely to the other side. Yet, instead of taking responsibility for his poor showing, Gabriel acted as if he was still firmly in control, even taking a shot at Shedeur Sanders by dismissing him as an entertainer rather than a true competitor. That level of arrogance, especially following such a disastrous performance, raises serious doubts about his mindset and whether he truly deserves to lead this team. Bush didn't hold back, calling Gabriel's comments not only unnecessary, but dangerously reckless. For a quarterback praised as having near-machine-like processing, the ability to dissect defenses instantly, and the calmness of a Terminator, Gabriel's behavior didn't match the hype. Rather than proving himself against tough competition on the field, he chose to target Sanders. And in doing so, he stirred up Sanders' massive and fiercely loyal fan base. But here's the thing. This whole situation traces straight back to Kevin Stefanski. From the very beginning of training camp, he's been blatantly unfair to Shedeur Sanders. Even when Sanders flashed real brilliance, Stefanski kept him on the sidelines, refusing to give him a single first-team rep while others cycled through their chances. After that first game, when fans were buzzing about Sanders' potential, Stefanski didn't budge. Instead, he doubled down, making it clear that Sanders wouldn't see the field anytime soon. He claimed his priority was on developing everyone, not just Shedeur, but the way he said it came off more like an excuse to bury Sanders deeper on the depth chart. And that's when the real controversy began. Here's exactly what he had to say.
Yeah, pleased with Shedeur, pleased with the offense. Again, not perfect, plenty that we can work on, but I thought the guys did a really nice job of Shedeur and operating, the guys making plays. So, again, a ton to teach off of.
And if Stefanski's earlier remarks weren't already causing concern, the latest reports have pushed things even further. Word is that Stefanski has no plans to seriously factor Shedeur Sanders into the team's future. For fans, this was a bombshell. After all the excitement, the flashes of potential, and the energy Sanders injected into the franchise, Stefanski still doesn't see him as the quarterback who can deliver. That's not just a blow to Sanders' confidence. It's a gut punch to a fan base desperate to see him take control. The bigger question now is what this really means for Sanders and the Browns. If the head coach himself isn't sold on his ability to lead, then doubt begins to creep in about whether Sanders even has a future with this team. And if that doubt takes hold, it could set the stage for a completely different direction for both the young quarterback and the organization. Everything pointed toward one clear reality. Kevin Stefanski appeared determined to derail the momentum surrounding Shedeur Sanders. Reports even surfaced suggesting that Stefanski was behind a false narrative claiming Sanders had picked up an injury. That's when Stephen A. Smith jumped in, refusing to let it slide. He openly accused Stefanski of fabricating the entire Shedeur Sanders is injured storyline. According to Stephen A., this wasn't about protecting a young quarterback. It was about manufacturing a convenient excuse to stash Sanders on the sidelines without triggering outrage from fans. The sudden appearance of an oblique injury seemed suspiciously timed, and Stephen A. flat out called it a smokescreen, a calculated cover-up designed to keep Sanders buried on the depth chart. He pointed to that very depth chart as the smoking gun, arguing that it proved the Browns never intended to let Sanders rise. If Sanders had been given the chance to build on the momentum he had already shown, there would have been no justification for benching him. But instead, right as crucial roster decisions loomed, this mysterious injury surfaced. Perfect timing to pull him out of the competition while avoiding a full-blown controversy.
And that comes with going up against competition. Of course, second and third units and all of that stuff come into play. When you're the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, had he shown up this weekend and balled out again, playing 45 or more snaps like he did in the first game and putting up similar, if not better numbers, I think that would have boded very, very well for him.
And the driving force behind all of Stefanski's decisions seemed tied to one goal: propping up Dillon Gabriel as the franchise hero. But that plan quickly collapsed. Gabriel's play was anything but heroic, marked by struggles from beginning to end. He couldn't reach the end zone, failed to generate real momentum, and despite having the support of a strong first-team defense, his biggest impact came from costly mistakes. No touchdowns, no highlight-worthy throws, nothing to convince fans he was ready to step into the spotlight. What baffled people even more was Gabriel's demeanor after the game, carrying himself as though nothing had gone wrong. His situation had grown so shaky that even Kevin Stefanski couldn't avoid addressing it when speaking to the media beforehand. Though he began by stressing that the Browns were in a good overall position, he couldn't escape the reality of Gabriel's repeated struggles. Stefanski openly admitted Gabriel was at fault for 2 critical turnovers, both the result of poor decisions, and those errors completely derailed the flow of the contest.
2 giveaways really were the difference there in that first half, because I thought we were doing some really good things, but then we got that takeaway, had a takeaway negated by an offside.
Kevin Stefanski has finally come to terms with his mistake of holding Shedeur Sanders back, and that realization changes the entire conversation. For weeks, he stood firm on the idea that Sanders wasn't ready, hiding behind talk of development, and even fueling an injury narrative that Stephen A. Smith blasted as nothing more than a smokescreen. But after watching Dillon Gabriel crumble under pressure, failing to finish drives, coughing up turnovers at the worst moments, Stefanski had no choice but to admit his strategy may have been wrong. By sidelining Sanders, he not only slowed the rookie's growth, but also denied the team the spark and momentum that Sanders clearly brings to the table. The breaking point came when Gabriel's struggles could no longer be ignored. Fans saw it, analysts saw it, and eventually even Stefanski had to face it. His gamble on Gabriel as the team's next leader backfired spectacularly, leaving one undeniable truth: Shedeur Sanders deserves his opportunity. Sanders has already flashed composure, accuracy, and leadership that Gabriel simply hasn't matched. For Stefanski, this isn't just about correcting a football decision. It's about repairing trust with a fan base that's been clamoring for change. Now the Browns face a pivotal question. Will Stefanski finally let Sanders step into the spotlight and prove himself? Or will he risk pushing fans even further away by clinging to a failing narrative? The truth is straightforward. Shedeur Sanders has earned his chance, and every moment of delay only sets the team back. Stefanski has admitted his mistake. What happens next will determine whether he truly fixes it. or falls into the same trap again. But what do you think about Kevin Stefanski in all of this? Has he genuinely owned up to holding Shedeur Sanders back, or is he simply shifting the story now that Dillon Gabriel's failures are impossible to hide? Do you believe Stefanski is finally ready to give Sanders a fair shot, or is this just another way of controlling the narrative? Share your thoughts in the comments. We want to know where you stand.